You ever been in one of those conversations with your partner, about a big decision and it just hits a wall? One of you has this gut feeling, the other has a spreadsheet full of pros and cons, and poof, you're at a complete standstill. Well, today we're going to break down exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how you can bring those dead-end discussions back to life.
Okay, so let's jump right into a scenario that I am almost positive is going to sound familiar to a lot of you. It's that classic clash of styles, the one that can turn a simple choice into a huge point of friction. All right, picture this. You're trying to pick a new place to live. One of you walks into an apartment and goes, "This is it. I can just feel it." The other one immediately pulls out their phone to check the commute times, the crime stats, reviews of the local schools. The feeling person starts to get frustrated by the analysis person, and of course, vice versa. Does that ring a bell?
And this right here, this just nails the core of the conflict. On one side, you've got the intuitive brain. It runs on gut feelings, on what just feels right. And on the other side, you have the logical brain, which is all about scrutiny, skepticism, and carefully weighing all the options. Now, neither one is wrong, but man, when they collide, it can create the perfect conversational storm.
And that's the stalemate. It really feels like you're speaking two totally different languages. But here's the good news. This isn't just some random personality thing. This problem actually has a name, and even better, it has a clear solution. So let's get into the diagnosis, because once you can put a name to these really frustrating patterns, you can start to see them for what they are, and then you can figure out how to actually deal with them.
First up, we've got intuition bias. This is that powerful tendency we all have to just trust a gut feeling because it feels so right. It's a mental shortcut, right? And hey, sometimes it's useful. But when it's the only argument on the table, it just becomes a wall that blocks any real discussion.
And that's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? When the person who's relying on their intuition can't explain why something feels right, what is the other person supposed to do with that? You literally can't debate a feeling, and this is where the conversation just dies and something else takes its place.
And that something else is what we call a zombie abstraction. I absolutely love this term. It's an argument that kind of looks and sounds like a reason, it just feels right, or I have a good feeling about this, but it's totally lifeless. There's no substance there. You can't question it, you can't analyze it, because there's nothing to actually examine. It's a conversational zombie, and it stops all progress dead in its tracks.
Look, this isn't just some hypothetical problem. It's a really well-observed dynamic. As one source puts it, one partner chooses because it feels right. The other uses scrutiny and skepticism. That is the fundamental clash right there, between intuition and analysis. And just seeing it laid out so clearly like that can be a real aha moment. So, here's the crucial part. We've identified the problem, we've named the zombies, so now what? How do we fight them? How do we bring our conversations back from the dead? Okay, let's get into the solution.
The antidote is actually pretty simple, but it is powerful. You have to reanimate the discussion, and the way you do that is with vigorous logic. The key word there is vigorous. This isn't about being cold or robotic. It's about actively and energetically breathing life back into a conversation that is completely stalled out.
And it really happens in 3 clear steps. First, you've got to learn to recognize that zombie abstraction when you hear it, that whole "it just feels right" argument. Second, you gently introduce some vigorous logic into the mix. And third, you just watch as that logic reanimates the entire conversation, turning that dead end into a productive path forward.
So what does vigorous logic actually sound like in practice? Well, it's not about being confrontational, it's about being curious. So instead of shutting down the "it just feels right" comment, you ask questions. Something like, "That's really interesting. What is it about this place that's giving you that good feeling?" Or maybe, "Can you help me understand what you're seeing that I might be missing?" See, these aren't attacks. They're invitations to dig deeper, together. It turns a gut feeling from an endpoint into the start of a real conversation.
Okay, let's move on to the final section and see how all this builds, because applying this concept, it's not just some intellectual exercise. It has real, tangible benefits for how you make decisions and for your relationship as a whole.
So here it is, the payoff. When you start using vigorous logic, you stop fighting each other and you start tackling the problem together. Conflict actually turns into collaboration. And this naturally leads to clearer, better decisions that both of you can actually feel good about. And maybe most importantly, it builds mutual respect.
You learn to value both the intuition and the analysis, and that daily frustration of hitting those conversational brick walls just starts to fade away.
And this is just so important to remember. The goal is not for logic to win over intuition. Honestly, a gut feeling can be an incredibly valuable starting point. The whole point of vigorous logic is to create a shared language, a bridge between these two styles, so that both the feeling and the facts can be explored together respectfully. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Think about a recent conversation that just ground to a halt. Maybe it was about money, or where to go on vacation, or maybe even what to have for dinner last night. Now that you have these tools, which one of those zombie conversations will you choose to reanimate first?